Hi, it's Rock. I did a quote the other day on fear, one of my daily quotes, and I said I would do a follow-up story. Quite difficult, this actually. This is now my fourth time of trying to do this bloody post, and I keep getting sidetracked or putting things in where they shouldn't be. But I'll do this one and let's see if I can get it right. So, um, two fears, and I've had, like most people, loads of fears. Two fears that I've had that I've had the opportunity of kicking down the street there, overcoming these fears. Um, the first one is on violence. So I'm really scared of violence from a young age. So this stemmed from me being 5 years old, first day at school, bumping into the wrong people and then being bullied for 10 years. So I was 15 and I left school by the same people who we went through the school all together, from infants, juniors to senior school, all together. So there was no respite. Nearly every single day it was horrible. I hated school. Left school at 15 with no qualifications. Just couldn't wait to get there. It was horrible. And if you've been bullied as a youngster, or you're going through it now, it's not a nice thing to do. So I'd get punched, beaten, kicked, pushed about, and everything else. And then if I bumped into them outside of school, that would happen as well. So that happened for 10 years. 1978, I had the good fortune of seeing a Bruce Lee movie, and that just changed everything. So that was me deciding then, this is what I want to do. So started learning karate, the local karate club, started learning karate as a means to protect myself and defend myself, because I didn't think I could fight. Anybody can fight, you don't need to be trained. So, we've all got that in us, some buried, however deep that may be, but we've all got that ability. But I wanted to learn. At that time, I thought I was scared of violence. Um, and I've tested myself all the time through violence. Yeah, whether that's competition violence, going harder and harder and harder. Started off with karate, then kickboxing, much more intense, much more violent. Then Thai boxing. When I stopped competing at the age of 40, MMA was just coming in, or it had been in a little while. I was definitely too old at 40 to start competing in MMA. If it was earlier, I'd have definitely gone down that route. Even though I've trained in it and I'm pressure testing myself through that competition side, to where I was at 40. I decided I could compete at 40. The recovery was just not there. I was like taking me weeks to recover if I had a hard bout. So even at 40, I was still, I competed at the top amateur level boxing, top European level at kickboxing, and I was still ranked in the top four at my weight for Thai boxing as well when I stopped at 40. So I'd been fighting at a really good level. So always trying to test myself against the best people out there, as well as you do as a young man. You're out weekends, Saturday night, rolling around in the gutter. Unfortunately, at some points, um, and then testing myself mentally and physically on the street, and that totally changed when I joined the military. So joining the military was a whole new perspective on my. I've never called myself a martial artist, even though I do certain, martial arts and then the combat side of things for street self-defense. Joining the military was a total eye opener, which was fantastic. So different levels of violence, um, to make myself as good at it as I can possibly be. And that's what that's my whole outset, is I wanted to be good at violence. So if anybody, was threatening me or my family, I was the best that I can be at doing that. And I'm still on that road to achieve that as well. So after um, 47 years of training in it, teaching in it, and then my own system, which I started over 20 years ago, teaching people all sorts of different applications for what they need to learn, whether it's for personal self-protection, whether it's through work, so the military, the police, close protection, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm still on that journey now, to the point where now, I've got quite a few black belts in different arts or instructor qualifications um, at the equivalent level um, for teaching different things, and then putting it all into my own art form there. And when I look back on it, um, I was never scared of the violence itself. I think at the start it was all about I didn't want to hurt the people who were bullying me. So it wasn't that I wasn't I didn't know at that time that I couldn't fight, whether it was how far it was down bedded in there, how do I bring it up, how do I close it back off, and all that sort of stuff that you learn. I think it was at that time it wasn't the violence, and that took a long time to realize. Okay, it's not the violence that scares me. It was all about hurting other people. I didn't want to do that at that age, or I was scared of doing that, hurting other people, and that's what I had to get over. So it wasn't the violence itself; it was the fear of hurting other people that I had to get over. Because ultimately, if I didn't hurt them, they'd be hurting me. So that was the first one. The second was when I was in the military. Um, the big thing at the time was we're now talking about World War III now, but we were talking about World War III then, and it was the Cold War. One of the big things was again what we're talking about now, nuclear war, was again nuclear war then. So at the time it was called NBC, so it was nuclear, biological, and chemical. Now it's called CBRNE, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive war. So really, really horrible ways to die. Never enjoyed it at the start of when new recruits going through training, applying that in our war roles and everything else. Really horrendous ways to die. When you've got all the nerve agent, blood agent, you've got all these chemicals, biological agents, nuclear warfare. Wasn't it was really. There are some ways I don't want to die. I'm not scared of those ways, but this was really scary part of soldiering. And like the violent side of things, whatever I've been scared of, I make myself the best at it that I can be to get rid of that violence. So I became a NBC instructor where I was teaching military people, military personnel, all about nuclear, biological, chemical, and then so on as it got more into CBRNE, um, teaching that to military people, making that the best that you can be. One of the funniest things I ever saw was in the Gulf War. Obviously, Saddam's got suspected weapons of mass destruction. We've got Scuds coming over. The landing, we're in our trenches. We're watching them come over. I've never seen guys. It was like an Iron Man when you see the Iron Man movies. Guys who, when they're in the, getting suited and booted in the NBC kit, putting the respirators on, everything all slow time. And then you're doing it in training and it's still slow. Get these scuds coming over and everything else, and it's like Iron Man. It's 2 minutes and everybody's suited and booted. Absolutely brilliant to see that the training everybody gets, it actually works. So that was you know, my aim then, was whatever I'm afraid of, I'm gonna be the best at that I can be to get rid of those fears, beat those fears. So the first one was violence, become the best I can be at being violent when I have to be. Second one was the CBR&E, terrifying ways to die. That's not how I wanted to die. I want to be the best that I can be to protect myself and fight in that environment. So that's what I did. Anyway, I thought I'd pass those on to you. Please drop a comment. What do you do to overcome your fears? My name's Rock. This is Viper Tactical Training. Stay dangerous.